Hey everybody, welcome back to the Pixelists, the podcast about all the nerdy things we love and enjoy. I'm Will. That's Blake. I know people probably think I'm like an idiot, but we record using Discord and it like mirrors for some reason
it
your
like
thing.
changes. It gets weird.
And sometimes I have to mirror, so like between the two mirroring effects, I just get confused on which way to point.
It's like a double rainbow kind of thing.
Yeah.
But like a double mirror.
Right. Like a double negative kind of.
Yeah.
You
but
know?
our channel's not negative. Or is
Like-
a double negative a positive? I don't know.
I guess it depends. It is in math, right? Or if you multiply. If you multiply negatives, it's a positive, right?
I left all that stuff. I left all that stuff back home.
Also, if you multiply negative cursed energy, it becomes positive cursed energy, if anyone out there knows what I'm talking about. Anyway, let's move on. Welcome to the Pixelist podcast. Today we're here to talk about Dimension 20, The Ravening War, Episode 2. Real excited to dive into it. But before we do, a couple of quick things. First and foremost, if you're familiar with us, we cover a lot of Critical Role stuff. Candela Obscura is starting this week. It's Tuesday today when we're recording this, so in 2 days that's coming out. We're going to be covering that. We're very excited for it. If you're just a Dimension 20 only person and you haven't really checked out anything Critical Role, this is going to be a brand new series, I guess would be an appropriate word from them. And it's going to be a recurring series, but each one is going to be like I think kind of similar to Dimension 20, where Dimension 20 is the overarching umbrella, but they have different like shows within it. Similar situation here. This first outing is going to be only 3 episodes, so it's a nice little, maybe appetizer to check out some Critical Role content if you're interested. So wanted to throw that out there. And anything else?
We have the new Worlds Beyond Wizard, Witch, and Wild One episode just dropped today. So I've started listening to that. I think Will's going to listen to it soon. So we should have an episode on that coming out in the near future. And then also you can stay tuned for our latest Critical Role campaign episode breakdown. We both watched it this last Thursday in the Discord plug, by the way. Watched it in the Discord, had a live watch party there with some pretty awesome people. If you joined us, by the way, thank you. That was really fun just to hang out with the crew and talk Critical Role as we're watching. So won't spoil anything from that episode, but there definitely were a couple of cool moments that all of us were like, what?
Yeah.
But yeah, so that episode will be dropping probably in a couple of days. And then, like Will said, we'll be covering Candela Obscura, not Candelabra Obscura.
And I'm glad you brought that up about the Discord, because I always forget to at the beginning of the episodes. We do have a Discord, like Blake said. It'll be linked in the description below. Come join us to talk Ravening War, to talk D&D, to talk anything. And we do have live watch parties for Critical Role. It's something I want to do for Ravening War, and I kind of tried to do it this past week, but I honestly didn't do a very good job because, for Critical Role, I have to take notes and stuff for that, but I'm intimately familiar with the lore of Critical Role, so I can do it much faster than with Ravening War. So like for this past week, we tried to do a watch party, but I kept having to pause and rewind like every 5 seconds. So I quickly got behind everyone else that was watching. Anyway, long story short, at least for maybe by the finale, if not sooner, I want to have like an official watch party. So if that interests you, another reason to join the Discord. Thanks for bringing that up. But without further ado, let's dive into our actual discussion today. Before we do that, though, we always do a recap. And if you find yourself on just that recap video, because we do cut that out and host it separately, a link to our full discussion will be in the description below. And on that video, it will have timestamps, so you can just skip straight to our discussion. But if you would like to take us off, my friend.
So recapping episode 2 of the Ravening War. I think it was called Bloody Conflict.
Harvest, I think.
Bloody Harvest. I was gonna say there's bloody something happening
Yeah.
here. It's called Bloody Harvest, and the episode basically picks up. If you remember from the previous episode, we had sort of like a 2-year time jump of Jacques. Sorry, I can't really pronounce words so good.
Jacques Tomate, yeah.
Jacques Tomate, who, if you remember, had sort of laid his claim to the throne as a representative of the Fruiterans. And then it led to all-out war across all the kingdoms. So we've skipped ahead 2 years, and Matt essentially in this first half of the episode is going to kind of go around the table and really ask people like, hey, what have you been doing in these last 2 years? And the person that he begins with is Karna. We find out that Karna is a 16-year-old spy master. I actually didn't realize that she was 14 in the previous episode.
Oh, I didn't either.
But is sort of coming into her own of understanding spy master duties. And one of the things that she has been doing is she's continuing to try to sort of like get involved with Tomate to essentially be not necessarily his right-hand man, but someone that he can count on. So that if he does find his way into the throne, she would, quote, be set up for life. This is going to be an important detail. It's going to come to fruition later in the episode. But separate from that, she's also spreading dissent about Bulbian theology, for lack of a better phrase. Sort of like creating rumblings around this is all the Bulbian church is doing nothing, this is their fault, so on and so forth. And then on the side, outside of her day job, she's also romanticizing about a young one, Thane Deli, that she met a couple of years ago, and maybe sending a couple of messages to, keeping up with over time. Speaking of Deli, Deli has his right-hand man, Colin Provolone, and the two of them have continued to operate in the Meatlands. There has been quite a bit of political strife and sort of infighting in the Meatlands, and Deli has sort of taken it upon himself to try to unify the Meatlands. And like I mentioned, has Colin as his right-hand man, although Colin, being from the Dairy Islands, is very much committed to Deli. The Dairy Islands themselves, we find out, have really sort of lost their autonomy, and there's a bit of some tension there as well. This attack from the hopeful king Tomate, actually, we find out is he wasn't expecting this sort of all-out war to happen, and this disorganized claim to the throne has sort of gotten away from him. And part of that has included trying to find political allies. And in one way that he's done that, is gifting the Dairy Islands basically over to the Meatlands. And so Colin is Deli's right-hand man. In fact, Colin gets awarded a title of Scald. It's supposed to be like a name of honor or authority. So it begins to be known as Scald Provolone. And essentially the two of them have, like I mentioned, have been sort of just holding out, waiting for direction. Now they are going to receive some direction. They're at the end of one day, Deli's actually going to find a scroll in his room that is from the FDA, the Fellowship of Destiny's Architects, that basically says, it's time, we need you to come to Kamita, to the spot under the food pyramid, and bring him. And it's in this moment, there's a really funny dialogue around, like, who could him be? And then Zac Oyama's like, do you think I got a scroll too? And Deli's like, it says bring him, so I don't think you got a scroll. But Matt does, probably feeling sorry for Zach, does give him a scroll in his room that's basically like, we already wrote to Deli to tell him what to do. So just stick with them, And then also with that, well, I guess I don't want to get into details for who they talked to before they leave, because that's your half. But there's also been some communication with Priest Rafanuel, who has sort of been encouraging Deli, trying to be supportive of Deli. Rafanuel, by the way, who's been hanging out in Greenhold with Amango and Karna, has also been trying to get his finger on what's sort of happening in the political landscape. People have sort of lost a little bit of faith in Tomate, and more importantly, Rafael is not so much openly supporting Go, but is trying to get a feel for what do people want, what do they care about, and it's kind of this furthering this interesting dynamic between Go has her two closest allies, who oddly enough aren't super openly supportive of her. One thing that Brennan does is essentially creates even more like political strife around, you guys are really bad at politics and this can't go on. We need someone who can lead us because you guys are really bad at that. Part of this conversation also leads to the continuing realization that Amango's best place forward is going to be at the side of Tomate. Not just for her protecting her own autonomy, her own consolidating her own power, but especially like uniting these kingdoms. It seems like the best play is to try to marry King Tomate, or the hopeful King Tomate. And so the plan then becomes to leave Greenhold, especially once they receive a similar scroll, and travel under Bulbian disguise to Komeda, where Amango can meet with Tomate and essentially put out this plan. Tomate, by the way, has been hiding. There's been some fears of assassinations that's put him into hiding. And as they sort of lay out this plan, there's an interesting dialogue between Rafael and Karna, where Karna comes to Rafael's church and is physically seemingly disgusted to the point of like almost vomiting being in the house of the great bulb. I don't know if that's the best way to describe it. But essentially the two of them decide, if we're going to get on Tomate's good side, we're going to need to offer up a thorn in his side. And Rafael chooses, was his name Druden? Knight Druden?
I think it was Sir Drunon.
Drunon. Essentially this swarmy, slimy knight who became popular after a battle, but is absolutely a thorn in Tomate's side, and is really not even so much widely regarded outside of a select group of nobles. And Rafael's like, this is the person to offer up to Tomate. There's some really great insight checks back and forth with Karna and Rafael. And also there's some funny dialogue around, is Brennan's character included on this call to Komeda, which he claims he's just been grandfathered in. Like, oh, they saw me stumble into this meeting under the food pyramid. They must just have looped me in. But Karna rolls like a 3 on the insight check. And Tom and Go, she's like, yeah, he's good. He's even though she knows he's not, he's like, yeah, he think he's good. Other than that, there is some other business that Brennan wants to take care of on the way to Komeda, which we'll get to in a little bit. But essentially, he entrusts this knight, Sir Allium Goldring, an onion ring knight, to basically watch after these two characters and protect them, and make sure nothing bad happens to them. Am I forgetting anything else before they head out on this journey? Oh, we actually do have Karna go and assassinate this knight, as well as the woman that he's with. And she essentially, in murdering both of them, essentially says, we all become food in the maw of the great hungry one, which seems to be the patron that Karna is following, and possibly is an opposition of the great bulb.
Yeah, we got a lot to talk about regarding that.
Oh yeah. Seems to be the reason for her unhappy stomach. But and then also there's this really crazy detail where Karna, in killing the knight, reveals this, I think it was like a patch of like rotten flesh that she like carves away from herself, and sort of offers up in this sacrifice. Having said that, am I forgetting anything else before they head out?
No, I think that pretty
Okay.
much covers it.
So why don't you take it from there?
Yeah. All right. And quick disclaimer for anyone watching the video: if you noticed me like start freaking out during Blake's recap, something like got in my eye. So just in case anyone was wondering what I was doing making those
Hopefully you
faces.
weren't like, you were like, no, you idiot.
um,
All right, take it from here.
okay, so we pick up cutting back to the Meatlands duo of Deli and Colin, who are preparing for their journey to head to Kamada when Surly approaches them. Now he is this guard that we saw in the first episode, and it seems to be kind of an important guard, maybe an important figure, not like politically important.
I think he would describe himself as Deli's best friend,
Yeah,
actually.
perhaps. So he approaches and hey, is like, hey, like, where you guys are packing up? Where y'all going? And Deli says, it's probably best for you not to know. And Surly is kind of, slightly offended by this. Like Blake said, they're friends. And Deli picking up on this is like, well, there's some big important people we're going to talk to. And he actually has to roll a deception check and hits a natural 1 on this. And Surly says, yeah, like, I get it. I get it. And Deli's like, please keep this between us. Don't tell anybody you saw us leaving. And he's like, yeah, I'll keep it private, but, definitely let me know how it goes when you get back. And there's also just this is a really funny scene. They start talking about sex and,
Oh my
you know,
gosh, this was so freaking good.
it was great. But then
I
we,
didn't know how it came up either. It was like, and don't forget, it's not. This guy's like, it's not as great as people say it is. And I didn't even know how this happened, but
yeah, I think it maybe was
anyway,
like they implied at first maybe they were like going to meet up with some girls maybe or
yeah,
something.
okay.
But yeah, it was
It's pretty
great.
good.
So then we cut back to Bishop and Co, Rafanuel, Karna, and Amongo, and they are on their journey. They are passing through Bright Garden. Now, this is where the bishop had some business to take care of on the way. So he stops in and he is basically just alerting a member of his network,
Yeah,
Sister Riley Underbake, who is a member of the Cloistered Order. And he's telling her about this damage he found as he was researching the past 2 years about just the
the
bulb and the
FDA.
FDA and
Yeah,
seeing what he could
right.
find.
I forgot to mention this. Yeah.
In that research, he found pages of the holy text were omitted or even ripped out. And so he is tasking Sister Underbake with figuring out who might have done this and why. So he just wants her to look into that. So all parties then are making their way to Kamada, and the Meatlands duo actually gets there a day earlier than the Queen and company. So the Meatlands duo gets there 2 days before this meeting with the FDA, and the Queen and them get there 1 day before. So in that time before, a couple characters do some things. Amongo sneaks out one night and stealths to this old, like, ramshackle house, and Karna follows her undetected. Um, Amongo gets there, goes inside, and is met by this older pomegranate woman who then leads her to a crib inside where there is a baby wine grape that is said to share the same like flex that Amongo has, insinuating that this is her child.
Mhm.
Amongo picks the baby up and holds it and asks, has anybody else come through here? And the old pomegranate says, no, I've been very careful. And Amongo thanks her, and the pomegranate says, I would do anything for your house. And the baby actually throws up on Amongo a little bit, and she sets her down, and she's like, I promise one day I will be back to take him. And as she leaves, again, Karna had been following her, so she sees her come out, and she clocks the little like throw up stain. So Karna is able to put 2 and 2 together, and she actually hires some like local street urchin kids to like keep an eye on that house for her. We then cut to Colin Provolone, who on one of these nights has gone to the docks and basically alerted the shipmaster to arrange 3 different shipments to happen at different times, to give himself essentially 3 escape routes should he need them over the coming couple of days. Basically, just a big crate that presumably he's going to get into and be shipped off somewhere. Also, a pretty funny scene. Um, Delhi during this time says that he sends out missives to different fruitarians that he thinks recognize Meatland's ownership of some of the Dairy Islands territory and basically would be his allies, and just says, hey, if any of you guys are in Kamida, I'm here and, would like to meet with you as Thane of the Meatlands. So then we cut to the night of the actual FDA meeting. And again, if I don't know if I explained this, but FDA, if you're not familiar with that acronym, is the Fellowship of Destiny's Architects, the like Illuminati group.
Mm-hmm.
So it's the day of the meeting. The group all comes back together. And Delhi asks Karna, he's like, hey, so it's been 2 years. Have you heard of me now? And she's like,
Yeah.
yeah, I have. You've made enemies trying to unite the Meatlands, and, people here respect your vision. And she kind of blushes because she's kind of feeling him, and everyone else in the group picks up on it. They then head to the pyramid just like before, but they do not go down to that same chamber where they were the first time. Instead, they go to a different chamber, and inside are 10 cloaked figures waiting for them. Um, there's a lot of information passed here, and I'm just going to try to cover the important parts of it. But of the things they say, one is, we know what lies beyond the veil of the book, and the truth so many choose not to see. Many bury the truth as heresy, and in so doing march Calorum into the fires of darkness. We will not allow this. A crucial stage in our plot approaches. A dangerous, untenable political operative soon moves incognito from Syresia, seeking to unravel our carefully engineered stage of our design. It's about 3 days before they will arrive in Uvano, and this cannot happen. Prepare, find a place to ambush, and slay them. Will you do this? Delhi immediately is like, hell yeah, like he's in. But the others are like, well, wait, hold on a
Yeah.
second.
Hang on. Yeah.
And so Amon goes like, who is this person that you want us to kill? And the FD head says, we don't know. They're just a foreign operative. And then, like Blake mentioned earlier, the Bishop Rathaniel was trying to say, like, yeah, they brought me back because I'm grandfathered in. So
Yeah.
I forget who says it, but like somebody is like, oh, hey, FDA members, quick question. You chose
Yeah.
all of us, right? And they basically just throw Rathaniel under the bus. They're like, yeah,
Yeah.
like we chose him. He was one of you. He didn't just get grandfathered in.
Yeah. I love Brennan being like, you all must be so proud of
He's like, I
yourself.
hope you're happy.
Yeah.
um,
Too good.
so that big reveal finally revealed, and
Yeah.
they
We should do
also
sorry, just like a clickbait. Rafaniel's big secret revealed.
title of this episode.
I'm realizing, by the way, we didn't even, we'll have to talk about this in the actual discussion, but I forgot to mention his vision, by the way, of like meat or like blood and sinew or something. So
Mhm.
just a casual detail that I glossed over. So we'll talk about that later. But
Yeah, we will.
anyway, continue.
So the FDA, reveals that the bishop was always part of them, and or not, you know what I mean.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah. Right.
they throw a weapon to help our party, and it's revealed to be a water steel dagger that seems to get a big reaction from at least some of the table, which Karna takes. And then they say, leave no witnesses. If you return in success, we might share with you our grand vision. But if you fail, we've got
Yeah.
the blackmail and everything on you. But they say, to aid you further, we will send you with another ally. Then from the shadows, another figure steps forth, not masked, not cloaked. It's just a normal person, who is Darren Dishless Quiche, a
Yeah.
storied mercenary that Colin Provolone has actually heard of. They all leave together. Dishless is, again, a mercenary. He's just there to help them carry this out. So they all leave together, and Dishless shares the plan. He says, we're going to head out at first light tomorrow, hopefully arrive there a day before our convoy that we need to attack is going to arrive. And there is this bridge that goes over a juice river in a valley, and that'll be a great choke point, a great ambush point. So, get your stuff together. We will head out tomorrow. Before they leave, though, the bishop asks Dishless, how long have you been working with the FDA? And he casts Detect Thoughts. And Dishless says that, they've been reaching out to me over the years, here and there. And his thoughts during this are just various times he's gotten the little summoning, the letter, and getting paid very well. So the bishop picks up that, he's not in this for some grand vision. He's just in this for the money. So the party that night decide to all stay together for safety reasons at a safe house that Karna has procured. So they head that way. But on the way, the bishop is makes a comment about, I understand why Thane Deli is here. I understand why Aman Go is here and Karna, as a spy master. But Colin, why are you here? Like, he wants to know what Colin's story is and how this seemingly innocuous, bodyguard fits into this. But Colin's not really sharing any information. And they kind of have a sort of intense, like, back and forth.
Mhm.
But it's dropped for now. So they go to the safe house, have dinner, and there's one thing they want to take care of before they're heading out tomorrow, and that is Karna going to see Tomate and delivering the head of Sir Drunon and trying to piece together this potential Lady Amango marriage to him. So they're talking about what they should do, how should they approach this, and ultimately they decide that Karna should go by herself because Tomate is going to be very guarded and it might be too conspicuous for all of them to try to go see him. So she's like, okay, and she immediately transforms into the form of Jacques Rudate, her spy master mentor that she took over. She does this in front of everyone, though. And so Deli and Colin, not being aware of that she can do this, kind of freak out. And they're like, whoa, what's going on here? And so Lady Amango actually does a deception check saying like, oh, she's a miracle worker of the bulb. Like, she has been blessed by the bulb. That's why she can perform this miracle. And she actually rolls a nat 20 on the deception check. So they all buy this for now. So Karna heads out in Jacques' form and heads to the Mason Guild where he is currently like stationed. She's led inside. She meets with him. She immediately pulls out the head of Sir Drunan and is met with praise. But she says, you know what? This isn't the only gift I bring you. I have
Mhm.
also brought you a queen. And she basically, propositions him with this marriage to Lady Amango. Tomate like hadn't even been thinking about a queen, and he's like, oh. And he seems to be very intrigued by this idea, but he's not ready to like immediately say, let's do it. He needs to talk to his advisors first. Karna then says, well, I have one more thing, but you must clear the room before I show you this last thing. And he does. Karna then tells him about Amango's baby, the heir, and that she knows where it is. And that in return for all of this, all she wants is a seat at the table. And Tamate says, okay, well, that she also mentions that her and the queen are going out of town for a few days to handle some stuff. So he says, bring the queen here when you guys return and we will talk more. Karna then drops her disguise and reveals the truth about herself and Jacques. And Tomate says, well, it looks like a seat at the table is empty then. We then cut to the next morning. Everyone's gathered and is traveling to the ambush point. They arrive about a day or so before the convoy is supposed to arrive, and they begin to make their plans on how to do this ambush. And that is where episode 2 ends.
Woo.
Again, thanks for bearing with us through that one. If you're on just the recap video, our full discussion will be linked down below.
Okay.
Alrighty.
Lots to discuss. Lots to chat about.
Yeah.
First reaction. What'd you think?
Yeah. I had a great time. It's pretty much always going to be the answer like we usually joke about, but yeah, it's just so fun to get to dive into a new world like this. And I mentioned having to like write notes and rewind every 5 minutes. But it's fun. Like, I like diving into this and trying to get an understanding of this new world. So I'm really enjoying it. I love the cast. I think they've got some good chemistry and great
Yeah.
characters. And it's fun to just see Matt, do something a little different.
Yeah, I'm liking it a lot too. Loving the pacing of it all. I was curious, like, since other D&D content I'm used to is much longer, like how it would feel.
Mhm.
And it feels good. It feels meaty.
Yeah.
And then a special shout out to Brennan. Brennan has so many amazing one-liners in this episode, like such a thoughtful character. I mean, they're all wonderful. I really enjoy all the characters, but I've been a massive Brennan fanboy since Calamity, so
I mean,
anytime he has camera time,
he's
yeah,
just the king of the one-liner,
yeah.
like in the DM chair or in the player chair, it seems.
Yeah, and I was thinking about even some like when he's having his interactions with Karna and later with Colin Provolone. There's just so many. He just navigates it so well. It's really fun to watch.
Yeah,
So
and it's just so cool to see. He is the creator of this world, and so it's so cool to just see him at the table and be able to kind of like, not I don't mean that he's metagaming in any way, but just
mhm,
like he's playing a character that is very smart and knows a
right,
lot. So it's kind of cool to just have that dynamic and have him kind of, I don't know. It's cool to
yeah,
see.
yeah. Well, I think even the scene where he meets the clergy woman in Bright Garden and gives the information about the bulb, and then either that individual, I think it was that individual, like walks away and begins like to whip themselves or
Hmm.
like hurt themselves, and Karna's like, "What is that all about? What's happening?"
Yeah,
And Brennan in character just so comfortably navigated it, in kind of a disturbing way. I just thought, man, Brennan is such a smart person. Um, but yeah, some really meaty, interesting dialogue in this episode for sure.
definitely. Was that the same moment where he gave the speech, or not speech, but he was talking about like pain is the gift of this
I
world?
think
Was that?
so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, that was really
So
good. And I mean, I guess that not that specific moment, but that kind of leads to one of the bigger things I wanted to talk about, which I guess we could just launch in, unless you had something specific you
no,
wanted
yeah,
to go to
yeah,
first. But just, well, maybe there's two conversations here because there's a Bishop Rathaniel centered conversation, and then I want to talk about Karna too, kind of in this same vein.
yeah.
Um, but like, just what's going on with, I don't know which one to start on, so I'm just going to start in general. But what's going on with this hungering one and this darkness, and are you getting the impression that what these visions from the bishop and his darkness, do you think that is also the hungering one potentially, or do you think
I
that is maybe something else entirely?
Since Matt called it a vision, I actually in the previous episode thought it was like a dark past of Rathaniel, like something like he had kind of hidden away,
Hmm.
which gives it a little bit more color to like this cunning nature he seems to have. I now wonder if it is like some vision of the future in some way,
Hmm.
that maybe what appears to be cunning and self-serving for like the Bulbian church, which I think is, I think maybe Rathaniel's character sees it as like the ends justify the means to sort of maybe prevent something really bad from happening. I
Interesting.
It does feel like a story of like opposites, like light and dark, whereas Brennan's character sort of represents this I guess source of hope and optimism. And Karna's character seems to, or excuse me, Bria's character seems to, yeah, be much more nihilistic and dark. We are all food. Um, but is even physically repulsed by being in a Bulbian building. The dynamic's very interesting. And then at the center of both of them, you have Queen Amango, who's very trusting, seemingly naively so, and is, I guess, beholden to both of their aspirations, even if it's at her expense, is what I would assume. I don't know. What's your kind of take on that whole dynamic?
Between those three,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I can't really parse her. She definitely seems, I don't know, because it could be somewhat of a mask. She definitely outwardly appears very trusting of the two of them, but I'm wondering if her internal monologue knows that they're backstabbers, because like each of them to each other's faces is like buddy buddy friendy friendy, but we know that the bishop has his own motives and is spreading the rumors he wants to, and Karna's doing the exact same, even to the detriment of the queen. I just can't imagine that she would be so naive as to not at least have an inkling of that. But maybe we just haven't seen her like say that yet.
We've heard Anjali Bhimani say almost got a joke about herself of being overly trusting.
Yeah.
I mean, is this a bit of like a ruse? Maybe. I don't know. I think especially bringing in the situation of the heir,
Mm-hmm.
this feels a bit too much of a long game for Karna to offer up that playing piece, which is massive, by the way, and is probably the biggest threat to Tomate's hopeful ascension. I have a hard time envisioning Karna offering that detail if she's secretly playing the long game to establish Aman-Go. Just because it's such a big detail, it's such a big. There's so much danger in offering up that insight.
Yeah, I
I
mean,
don't
she's
know.
definitely looking out for number one, like
It seems like
Karna,
that. Yeah,
So
that's my impression for sure.
for sure. Um. So yeah, I mean, okay, I want to talk about the air still. So don't let us
Yeah.
forget
Okay.
that. But I want to backtrack a little bit to the bishop and Karna again. Okay, so one thing you said there, you're the potential about like if he's seeing the future and he's trying to, prevent that as it were, whatever. So you're thinking the angle there is that in a way he is like a very selfless and like has a honorable quest in that way, if that is the case, where like he's trying to do all this for like some greater good.
Maybe. I'm just saying I could see that angle. I could also see it. The Bulbian storyline is very Catholic Church-esque to me, which
Mm-hmm.
is not to be meant to be offensive to anyone who's Catholic, but there has been a lot of historical data points over several hundreds of years of the Catholic Church operating less as a religious institution and more like as a force of politics and
Yeah.
sort of propping up itself. So without getting into the minutia of all that, I would not be surprised to it at the end of the day just be political intrigue and playing on a chessboard to sort of continue to establish the Bulbian Church. There is this interesting conversation that Rafael has with Karna, where another great line from Brennan on like pride versus humility and heroes essentially is like the greatest illustration of sinfulness of pride because you're sort of like propping yourself up rather than being humble. And then Karna says, well, after this is all said and done, do you think you'll be regarded as a hero? And Rufino says, I hope no one remembers me. So I don't know if that's like out of like this huge altruistic, don't remember me, I just want good to win out, or if his character's identity is so synonymous with this underhanded, cunning, like very literally, I hope I'm never found out. I don't know. It's hard to see like which angle Brennan's taking his character. I think both are pretty intriguing though.
Yeah, I wrote that down too. Like, I hope to not be remembered. Um, which, yeah, same questions. I posed the same questions you just talked about, and then I also wondered, like, was he just lying? Like, does he actually want to be remembered, but he's just saying that? And I don't know how to parse it. And I'm also wondering if, I mean, he does seem like such a wheeler and dealer and a manipulator, like like Varys or Littlefinger from Game of Thrones, like we mentioned. I am not sold on that he's actually religious. Like, I wonder if that is just the station. That's like a station that's very
Mm,
powerful, and so he's utilized that his whole life. I'm not
I
saying
can
he's
see that.
not, but I think it's at least
Yeah.
possible that that's just like, especially given these dark visions, which again, just a base statement. If you're watching this episode, I'm assuming you probably watched our first one, but Blake and I have not seen A Crown of Candy, and we aren't
Right.
intimately familiar with like the background lore of this world. So some of the stuff might even be like obvious. And again, feel free to let us know in the comments, but please just include like a spoiler for Crown
Spoiler.
of
Yeah.
Candy, if it is relevant in that way. Because like I know we were talking about, I don't want to shift to Karna yet, but just to say this, we were talking about what was going on with Karna in episode 1 and like the secrecy around her magical powers and stuff. And somebody in the comments did mention that there was this hungering one entity and it's like magic is like kind of frowned upon because it shows that like, and again, I don't know what I'm talking about, but it shows
Right.
that like you are like empowered by that entity. So like you can't be
Right.
like, you know, so
Um,
go ahead.
well, I was going to say, I will say I really like your theory there because there just are so many moments where Rafanuel is caught, so to speak, or maybe that's too strong of a word. Even saying like one upped is too strong of a word, like where there's like an opportunity for vulnerability and Brennan has him throw out, the one liner about the Bulbian church. Like almost like reciting like a scripture verse, like from like the Bible. Like he just throws it out, says it. It's always perfectly applicable,
Mm-hmm.
or he at least presents it as so. So I could definitely get on board with this whole, you know, operating out of the identity of the position without
Mm-hmm.
really, believing it. I could definitely see that.
Because, and again, there's like so much to unpack here that I don't necessarily want to like jut off yet, but him researching and finding like the pages that were torn out and him getting that lady to look into it for him, combined with one of the things the FDA said, which let me just have it written down here. Ba, 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 ba. We know what lies beyond the veil of the book. I have to think the book is the Book of
Yeah.
Leaves, the Bulbian book.
Yes.
We
Yeah.
know
And the
what
Book of
lies.
Leaves is like that. That is like the holy book, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. That's what I thought.
So we know what lies beyond the veil of the book, and the truth so many choose not to see. Many bury the truth as heresy. So like burying the truth, ripping out the pages, perhaps.
Mm-hmm.
So like are those things connected? It seems like an easy connection to make, but it could be kind of a red herring. And like, does the hungering one fit into that at all? Like,
Right.
maybe like it's for what these people believe. Maybe it is like for the greater good or something. I don't know. It's like a lot to unpack there. Um, again, so maybe the bishop has some sort of ties to this hungering one as well. But you would think, okay, and here's I know I'm rambling, but in episode 1, Karna, the whole transforming, like, oh, he saw you transform. Like, Bishop says, if you use magic in front of people, I can't help you. Like, the
Mm-hmm.
Bishop clearly knows what Karna is, or that she has these abilities. Like, he knows that, and
Right.
he's cool with it. Which, if he was, well, if he was the Bishop, I mean, he is a bishop, but like, you would think that he would almost be like adamantly like the most staunch against that.
Yeah.
Like, why is a
Right.
bishop cool with a hungering one person?
Well, and why is he so comfortable sort of showing not his underhanded nature, like his cunningness? Like it's interesting that you're right that he doesn't just like either immediately oust her or put on this facade of like, oh, I don't mess with that, but instead is sort of like reveals his hand a little bit of like giving her advice and kind of
mm-hmm.
not mentoring her, but there are moments where there is like sort of this mentoring happening, not just with Karna, but also with Amango in the first episode. Um, and naturally, everyone's pretty suspicious of him as well, especially once they figured out from the FDA that he, in fact, had been invited.
Yeah.
What was his original letter again?
His blackmail was like the
Yeah.
herbs that
Yes. Yes.
were like
Right.
poisonous, basically.
Right.
Um, so yeah, I don't know what to make of it because I don't remember the exact wordage, but in that first episode, Amango and Karna were having like a telepathic conversation, being like,
Mhm.
"Did you tell the bishop this?" And she was like, "No, I didn't tell him. He just
Yeah.
like he knows, like he just knows somehow." And then later
Yeah.
he
Right.
uses the telepathic communication that no one knew he was capable of. Um, so I'm wondering, I don't know, there's just a lot to unpack there. I don't know enough about the world lore to know if I can confidently say he is also maybe affiliated with that, or if there's other dark entities.
Yeah, it is hard knowing what just hasn't come to be realized yet, like what's going to be like a reveal and like what the subtext, I guess, of people who've seen A Crown of Candy,
Yeah,
like the data points they're latching onto.
right.
So I do wonder if we're in the dark as much as everyone else, or if there are other details that, and in a spoiler-free way, but other details that we just aren't aware of. One of those, by the way, the water steel dagger that's
Yeah,
mentioned,
yeah.
the cast gave a reaction to. I did look this up on
Oh,
like the Crown of Candy wiki,
yeah.
um, which this doesn't spoil anything if you want me to tell you what I
Hmm.
read about it. And by
Yeah.
the way, if you've seen A Crown of Candy, I apologize that this is like someone who has no idea what it is just reading the wiki. So if I miss some context here, feel free to just correct me in the comments. But from what I understand, it is this sort of marvel of technology where they realize, I think pure water is deadly or dangerous to all denizens of the lands, I guess. And they found a way to convert pure water, combine it with steel to make a water steel weapon.
Mm.
And from what I understand from the wiki, not only does it damage you, it also puts some sort of debilitating effect on you. And then I think the other detail I read was that it dissolves upon use, like it's
Oh,
definitely like an assassination weapon. So once it's
interesting.
used, it dissolves or something. That's like the general understanding from the wiki. Again, disclaimer: don't get mad at me if I missed some context or details there, but definitely the cast, as soon as it was awarded, were like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
So
Okay. Yeah. Good to know. I assumed it had to be something crazy like that. The one-time use thing is really interesting. So
I think I think that's what it said. I could be wrong.
it'll be if she doesn't use it in this mission they're about to do, it's like, man, is that going to get turned on somebody in the party or something? Uh,
I definitely get the impression we might be heading to some infighting
I mean,
by
we
the end
gotta
of
be.
this show. Yeah, I mean, I guess tonight is the halfway point. So
Tomorrow night. But
tomorrow
yeah.
night, yeah, right. I was thinking Tuesday for some reason. Um, so yeah, I mean, just from the already the subterfuge that's happening between the party. Yeah, it seems like a key Chekhov's gun Ian type
Yeah.
item.
100%.
Um, if we could maybe park there for a second, and not even getting so much in the FDA's conversation, but the mission. I wonder if people who've seen A Crown of Candy are if they know who the person is that they're going to assassinate, or if this will be a totally yet to be identified character.
Yeah. That's a good point. I'm curious too, because yeah, I don't know. I mean, I guess if they did know, it would have to be just like from like a history check, right? Because this was 20 years prior. In
Right.
terms of like, it's not somebody that well,
Right.
I guess they could fail, and maybe that
They
character
could.
is still alive in. But yeah, I was wondering that too.
I think it'd be interesting if they fail in the sense of now the final 4 episodes are more them positioned against the FDA, which has been much more a compelling force than presumably who this new character is. Not to say it couldn't be. I also liked Colin Provolone's question to Delhi on when they say no witnesses, do they mean
Oh yeah,
Quiche?
that
And he's like,
yeah, that Delhi asked him that.
oh, okay. Well, then, yeah. And so then Colin's like, no,
Yeah.
of course not. That doesn't make any sense. But it did make me wonder. My first guess was like, here's the NPC who helps the party. It's like classic DMing. You have the NPC who can kind of help flex the battle a little bit. But it did make me wonder if a level beneath that, if Quiche is there to not like kill the party, but if they fail on behalf of the FDA, I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know. I did wonder if there is like some subtext there beyond just, here's the NPC who's going to help.
Yeah, I think so. I think that makes a lot of sense. Kind of like a contingency
Right.
package. Yeah, I feel like totally. Um, yeah, he seemed like a cool character.
Yeah, he was.
Is, I was kind of expecting when he was introduced another kind of like Sir Drunon, like this kind of badass warrior, but he's like a huge d bag and
Yeah.
debaucherous. But Colin was like, yeah, or Matt was like, Colin, yeah, you've heard of him. You heard he's pretty chill. So like I wasn't expecting that. So yeah, I'd be definitely interested to see what you said about like if they failed and then the rest was them kind of pitted against the FDA in addition to all this other stuff. That would be crazy. I feel like I don't see that happening, but that would just be all chaos broken loose if so,
Mhm.
which would be cool to see. Um okay, one one last thing on the whole hungering one stuff is just on the Karna side of things. Clearly, Amongo and the bishop have some idea. I mean, we don't really know to what extent, but they know enough to know that that needs to be hidden, and they can't help her if it comes out. But beyond that, we don't really know the depth of their knowledge on whatever's going on with her.
Mhm.
So my questions are: does she know? Does she understand what's happening to her? Is this like a deliberate
Mhm.
choice that she like? Again, don't know what I'm talking about. Worships this thing. I mean, we know she took flesh, some of her own flesh, and the
Mhm.
flesh of these people she killed and like did a ritualistic sacrifice to this thing. Um, I just don't know what to make of this because it's like if these are like if it is like the antithesis to the bulb, I just can't imagine. Again, the bishop's morality and what his true intentions are aside, I can't imagine I'm on go being
Oh, yeah, definitely
cool with
not.
that.
Yeah.
Um,
Hey, I'm not cool with what you just did.
right, yeah.
So weird. I think it was Lou who was like, y'all people are freaks. Y'all are weird.
So I don't know what to make of this. Like
Yeah.
she seems to be out for numero uno. She giving up the child and everything to Tomate. Um, so does she have some grand plan of her own beyond just looking out for number one? Is there some like hungering one directive that she is trying to ascertain power for? Or
Yeah.
is it just no, she's just the spy master, she's doing her thing, and she just so happens to like I don't
You'd have
you
to
know.
wonder if there is like some, not to spoil anything, but a certain movie we saw, not me and you, but we saw recently where there's this number two person escalating in power who really just wants to see the whole kingdom destroyed. Um, are you tracking with me or no?
I think I am.
Okay.
It's a
In
movie?
popular, yeah, forget it.
We
In
saw it
popular,
recently?
we didn't see it together, but
But like it
we,
came out recently?
yeah. I just didn't want to spoil it for
Yeah.
anyone who hadn't seen it yet,
Okay.
because it's just a good movie.
Yeah.
But
It'll come to me. I'll let you know when the light bulb clicks.
sure, it will. So in popular media, it's not uncommon for there to be someone vying for power, and you have like the dopey king or what have you, who's like, yeah, this is my number two, but actually that person's really trying to make a play over their head
Yeah.
for like a deity or like a cosmic force or something that has like world altering implications. And to get you to your point, I do wonder if that's happening, if her dedication to the hungry one is actually really the end game of like, we all do become food, or like what if the hungry one in this, like the Lego movie, like what if the hungry one is literally, you know
It's like a person.
farmer Joe,
Yeah.
who's like tilling the crops, and the end game is everything gets eaten. I don't know. And so I do think there is something beyond just, you know I'm up and coming, aspiring spy master. I get to add another bullet point to my resume. You know,
Yeah.
it doesn't feel like it's quite that, but maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you. I like the I like that farmer idea though, because it kind of like makes sense for the world. I could
Yeah.
see something like that. It did seem like in the not that the bishop's visions are regarding the hungering one, but that reminds me and I wish I had it like pulled up, but I don't have the exact quote in my notes. But when he was having that vision, Matt mentioned like whirling blades or something to that effect.
Hmm.
And it made me think of a blender,
Yeah.
which, because of their food, which I
Yeah.
thought was
What's the
interesting.
movie with James Franco and, where they
Oh,
play food? And like, isn't
yeah.
there like a scene where they get back from the grocery store and like, this is so great. And then like
Yeah,
their friends
yeah.
get like chopped up in a blender or something. That's kind of where my mind went.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about, but I don't remember the name of that movie.
It's very on brand, James Franco and Seth Rogen, by the way. So, okay.
um
You said to remind you to park to come back to
oh
the
yeah.
air, by the way.
Yeah. Okay. So, a lot of questions here. Presumably her baby because of the
Hmm.
comment about it sharing the flex or whatever. So operating under that assumption, but I guess it's at least possible that it's not her baby. Um,
But if it's her heir, it couldn't have been with her late husband.
right. That's what I was gonna say. We don't know how old this baby is, but it's in a crib.
So, yeah, I mean, okay, here's the deal. I don't know how, you know, growth works in
Yeah.
this world.
Yeah.
But if it's a 2-year-old, this thing's walking around, you know, probably talking, at least babbling for sure. But yeah, it's a baby. So uh, I can only assume in the past 2 years she's found a boyfriend or something. But hey, maybe in this world, you know, you stay a baby grape for 5 years or something. I don't know. I mean, Karna's also 16, and I'm like, is that 16?
Yeah.
Otherwise, Deli can't help himself, or you know, is this like dog years? I don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
so
So I don't know that there's all those questions to parse, but it's also been 2 years. So if I guess it's at least possible that it is the king's heir, and if so, she must have been pregnant in episode 1. Um, and could that be one of the reasons that she was so pressed to find like a husband and like want to get with Tomate
mm,
to try to like
yeah.
make the timing of that check out, which clearly didn't happen because it's been 2 years, which
Okay,
could
so yeah, sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say which could be the reason for the secrecy. Obviously, the secrecy is probably just necessary because it's her child, regardless of whose it is. But um, yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if it's the king's. And the other question stemming from this is, well, if it is or if it isn't the king's, is her okay? Wait, if it's not the king's, could this blackmail on her with all the debt she's in be related to this baby, to be related to keeping it secret? Could it be
It couldn't
related?
have been a secret back then. I mean,
Her pregnancy could, if she was pregnant.
I guess. I don't know.
or even not the baby itself, but if she was having an affair, the
Yeah.
affair could be the reason
Yeah.
for this debt.
Yeah, and
Like,
if she's siphoning off funds to pay the boyfriend, you know, like taking
yeah,
care, you know, the king is a cuckold, you know, and she's basically like siphoning off royal funds to like, you know, take care of her boo or whatever.
yeah,
That makes a little bit more sense to me than I don't know. There's a lot of loopholes, not loopholes. What's the expression? Plot holes and potential plot holes. In that, I mean, if Karna and Rafanuel have been like at her side these last 2 years, wouldn't one of them also notice? Presumably, the baby was put there when they were like before the war started, or did she travel up to Kamada? I mean, would they have seen that she was pregnant? I don't know how any of this works in fruit and vegetable world, you
yeah,
know, but I don't know. It's too hard to say these are a bunch of plot holes. They're just things that have not settled in my mind for like how
Yeah.
this is working.
Yeah, because we don't know the ins and outs of
Yeah.
fructarian biology. But so
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, those questions aside, I feel like via one angle or another, this secret baby, this potential affair, whatever the case may be, could at least explain her debt ledger. Be it trying to keep a secret, being it paying off people, being it paying
Yeah.
her secret boo thing, whatever it may be. Um, we know that she didn't tell Karna since Karna found out this way. So presumably she didn't tell the bishop either. So this is like her ultimate trump card. And it seems as if she cares more about this baby than the throne, because it seems like this would be a card she could have played is I am pregnant, there is an heir. And like, would that not have potentially diffused the, I mean, it probably wouldn't have diffused the war, but it could have been like a major card to play. Like, no, there is an heir. Like, what is everybody doing? But she didn't play that card.
Well, unless she didn't know she was pregnant until after, after the war started.
And
Like,
I guess knew that she couldn't play it off as being
maybe
the
it was
king's
too,
son.
well, maybe just, yeah, maybe thought it's too late now. People
Yeah.
will think something, unbecoming of me. Like maybe her and the king conceive, king dies. She finds out this is like, I don't know how this works with vegetables, but, or fruit, or whatever, you get it. Finds out sometime later, oh my gosh, I'm pregnant. The war's already begun though.
Mhm.
This marriage with Tomate makes sense because, like you said, I can sort of claim like here's the heir. Um, so I don't know.
Yeah, I'm wondering. This is something Crown of Candy people probably know, but I don't even know what the king was. Like, was he a grape? Like, if he was a grape, that makes it a lot more feasible that this is his baby.
Yeah,
But
it's one
maybe
of those things where you
maybe
can't like Google it because you don't want to find
yeah, I don't
out.
want to
Yeah,
spoil anything. But maybe that doesn't matter in this world. Like maybe a
yeah,
watermelon and a cherry can have a strawberry baby. I don't know.
that's disgusting.
But one other thing I did notice is she said it was a wine grape,
Hmm.
and that this is just a pure shot in the dark. But one of the lines from her blackmail was it mentioned like beneath the crumbling grounds of the Pinot house, and Pinot sounds wine-ish to me.
Yeah,
I don't know, like Pinot, that might not even be how it was pronounced. That's just how I wrote it down in my notes. So like that might not even be correct. And it wasn't Pinot, which
yeah.
it was like Pinot or something. Anyway, so I thought that was an interesting connection. Um,
Could it
but yeah,
be her husband's kid, but not hers? And she feels.
well, it could be, but it does have her flex or whatever.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's a good
Yeah,
point. Yeah.
I don't know, but with the Tomate connection, what was your take on that information being revealed? Because to me, it seems like he would want that kid dead.
I mean, yeah, or
Was
we're
he going to
together
pass it off
now.
like it's his?
I think it could go either way because definitely could, and maybe it's up to Karna to sort of angle him either way, but could get married and hey, we already have an heir, and the heir solidifies the throne even more.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I think since Tomate feels how rocky it is currently, like people haven't allied with him like he thought they would. It's all out war. I think the data point might be I want to protect that heir as well and pass it off as my own, especially if Amon Go is like pro us getting married. Um, but I don't know, because it would always be a trump card that she would have over him
Right.
of, I could tell people it's not yours. So I don't know. It's a very dangerous detail regardless. And like not to retread what we've already said, but it makes me very suspicious of Karna to have given that up so quickly.
Yeah, for sure. Because I didn't know how to parse that. Because then he followed up with like, yeah, bring the queen to meet me, seeming like he
Mm-hmm.
was interested in this potential marriage, but like it seems like there's no universe where like he could get away with murdering that kid and still marrying her. Like surely Amon Go wouldn't go for that.
It would have to be without her knowledge,
Yeah.
you know?
But I also can't see him like being. It seems like his aspirations would be more than just to be the king for 20 years before he dies. Like I would think he would want his actual blood
Right.
to be the heir and
Right.
not just okay, yeah, this way I can be king for a little bit and then that's it though.
Right.
Um I guess do we know that the grape was a boy? I think I maybe just said that, but I don't know if we
Yeah, I think so.
okay.
I think we did.
So
Yeah.
yeah, I'm interested to see how that dynamic develops and what everyone's intentions there are.
Mhm.
But yeah, I couldn't believe she gave up the the baby in that conversation.
Right.
Um, but again, just goes to speak what she's really about.
If you're ready to move past this,
Yeah, yeah.
I was going to talk about Colin Provolone. I think you were spot on. Last episode, we talked about his dynamic and sort of goofiness, and you mentioned like, hey, maybe it's a ruse. I think there's a lot more credence to that. Seeing him in this episode, one, the way he sort of defends himself from Rafanuel, and then two, him going to the docks and sort of solidifying those exit strategies, and three, being unwilling to tell Delhi his blackmail.
Yeah.
Delhi sharing their own blackmail, and then Colin being like, "It's better if I don't." And I think we talked about there being some kind of rebellion that he didn't want to be associated with, possibly. Has any of this like matured any more for you in terms of like this theory or what's going on with Colin?
Not nothing like concrete, but and again, forgive me for not being able to properly at- attribute this. But somebody in the comments of our last episode drew a comparison to Game of Thrones with his character.
Oh, yes, with Braun. I saw that
Yeah,
comment. I'll pull it up just to attribute the person.
yeah.
I didn't know this detail, by the way, when they said this, and I thought it was really great.
But essentially being that perhaps Colin is like the last heir or the last in this bloodline, the Fontina bloodline, which is the Lucas, I think Fontina was the guy's name that like led the coup in the Dairy Islands.
Mm,
Um, and Colin made it seem like he wasn't really affiliated with that, so it would make sense. I mean, either A, he's lying, or B, he wasn't, and that's just like his dad or his grandfather or his uncle or something, and he's just the last surviving member. Um, which I think would make sense for why people would still want to come after him for this. If and I don't know the political structure of the world, but if the Fontina guy who led the coup had some sort of claim beyond just like wanting to overthrow the government, which I assume he did, then Colin could be the last person that like has such a claim and therefore would want to wipe him off the map if they knew he still existed,
yeah.
type of thing.
So looking up the comments, this came from Mara. I think Colin Provolone is based on Bronn from Game of Thrones. That would mean Colin is probably actually surviving Fontina, since Bronn is heavily implied to be the last surviving reign of Castamere. Never knew this from Game of
Yeah, I didn't
Thrones.
know that either.
I don't think this was at all illustrated well in the show. I'm assuming that detail mostly comes from the book. Thank you, Mara. What a great detail. And by the way, since I'm already here, let me also Nick Gresick. It's implied Karna gets her magic from the Hungry One, which is considered to be very taboo. It's like a devil figure in the world of Crown of Candy.
Here we go.
So that's another just great detail that came from our commenters. By the way, thank you guys so much for sharing that. So yeah, I do really like that theory about Colin Provolone. Would be very interesting for sure.
Yeah. I there's more to him for sure. I don't want to retread ground that we covered in the first episode. I do think his personality is like that. Like I don't think he's wearing a complete mask of that person, but I definitely think he's weaponized it.
Yeah.
Or defensivized it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm just really curious to find out more, and I'm just there's so much intrigue and like backstory to all of these characters. We only have 4 episodes left, and I mean I know it's a prequel, so maybe maybe there's
Yeah.
like more stuff to kind of unfurl if we watch Crown of Candy afterwards, but at least
I think we're gonna have to,
yeah,
just
yeah, for sure.
kind of just to see kind of what
Yeah,
happens.
just
But
yeah, and just I want to know, but and this is I'm sure it's amazing. It's what we've heard over and over. But saying this now, there's obviously not going to be Colin Provolone lore in Crown of Candy because
right,
this is a
right.
new character. So I guess we won't be able to learn anything about that. But I don't know. I just want to know more about like I don't know. I'm sure we'll find out more, but I'm just curious.
Yeah. What else from this episode do you want to talk about?
Let me take a quick old peeker at the notes.
We
Um,
said it in the recap, but I just loved the conversation about sex.
yeah,
It was so good.
that was amazing.
Colin, good luck with that. Oh man, that
And
was
I did
great.
like toward the end of this episode where um Colin once again or Adeli was like, yeah, once Colin gets there, he'll really be able to give us some ideas. He's like, yeah, like I need to see it. With his
Yeah.
like strategic, mastermind. Um,
Yeah.
which I mean, he may actually be. So I am
Right.
curious to see like
Right.
if he does come up with the plan or anything like that.
Right.
Um, but let's see. I think I think we mostly covered what I wanted to. Um,
Okay.
the only other little bit I just saw in my notes that I don't think we explicitly said is kind of regarding this baby. Um, did in the first episode was it ever mentioned that she was like incapable of bearing an heir and that's why they
I
didn't,
think
or
so.
we don't know why there was no heir?
I think they just said there was no error, but I could be wrong.
Because I don't remember if it was in the
I
after
don't think.
show for episode 1 or not, but she
Oh,
mentioned
okay.
like about those herbs when
Yeah.
it might have been during the actual episode, but she mentioned about those herbs, like, what if that killed the king or what if that made me infertile? So
Oh,
I don't know if,
and the bishop being so close to her was keeping her infertile?
yeah, I don't know. So I don't know if Anjali was making that comment, like,
Yeah.
just
Wow, that's
if
a
there was anything behind that, like, is she
crazy detail.
infertile? And that's why she even posited that, or clearly she's not. So, anyway, I'm wondering if the king's dead. We know that much. The bishop maybe had something to do with it. But could she have had anything to do with it? Especially if this
Mm.
is like an out of wedlock affair baby. Like,
Yeah.
would she have had any reason to want to kill the king? Maybe the king would have found out about this baby and killed it or something,
Maybe the king did find out.
Yeah. So um we kind of already touched on that subject, but that was just one part
Yeah.
I forgot to mention. I
Yeah.
think there's more to Go for sure. Like I feel like
Yeah.
there's another
For
shoe to
sure.
drop with her, especially because she's one level lower than everybody else. And like, why is that the
Right.
case?
Yeah. That's really interesting and odd.
Yeah, is it like a secret level? Like she really is level 5, but we can't know about it for some reason, or else like you wouldn't think she would like intentionally handicap herself by being a level
Maybe.
lower.
I know in Worlds Beyond, there's a moment where Aabria says, "Hey, I want to roll at a disadvantage," and Brennan's like, "Okay." So maybe, I mean, there could be something there. Maybe she's playing into like the naivety of her character by purposely making her a level lower. I have no idea. Would be interesting if there's something else to it though.
And talking about this reminded me of one other thing. I'm not looking at it all right now, so this might be incorrect, but we've seen everyone's character sheet. We know what their levels are, and like a bunch of them have rogue levels. There's like fighter levels. Um, Bard is one, and that does have spells, but most of them like there aren't wizards, sorcerers, which kind of would make sense in the context of the lore of this world with like these magic things being taboo. Um, all that to say, I wonder if she maybe does have a secret level, but it's like it's sorcerer or wizard or something that would show her to have these spells and therefore have some implications in that way.
Yeah, that makes sense for sure.
Very
But presumably,
curious.
we might find out in our next combat, which seems like it will be this next episode.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. I'm glad you brought that up. We know this person's coming from Ceresia. Could this be Thane Delisandro's boo thing? Because we know she was like fishing for info in episode 1, and it would make
Matt, how
for
dare you?
it
How
would
dare you, Matt?
it would make for a really interesting dynamic if like he all of a
Yeah,
sudden was like,
for sure.
you know, and that may be something like Crown of Candy people would know. So like, I don't know if that
Yeah.
is like a dumb thing to even question, but since we haven't seen it,
Right.
or at least if not her, maybe we know he grew up there. Like maybe it's somebody he knows at least.
Or like that person's dad, or wasn't there like a dad introduced or something in the first?
His grandfather.
Oh
Is that who you
yeah,
mean?
yeah. Maybe that's what I was thinking of actually. Okay, well, never mind. Yeah, maybe the aunt. I don't know. I think it might be someone he knows though, because didn't he go spend time there?
Yeah,
Part of the backstory.
that's what I just said.
Oh, sorry. I was still so like deep on like the aunt line of thinking.
No, yeah. So yeah, he left the Meatlands when
Yeah.
his other
And,
mom died and spent
and
time there.
didn't he leave the Meatlands when his other mom died?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
I still can't think of that movie you were referencing earlier. You're gonna have to tell me after we
All right.
end here.
Now that I did it, I'm like, have you even seen it? I'm like wondering if you
Well, I
even
know.
saw the movie.
I was trying to think of movies that came out recently, and I feel like
Yeah, I don't know.
I haven't seen that. Unless, like, is it even really a movie, or were you trying to
Yeah,
cover?
it's a movie.
Okay. I don't know if you're referencing like Critical Role or something.
It's a YouTube short, so
Really
You've seen it,
compelling
right?
characters.
yeah. All right. Let us know, guys, what y'all thought of the episode and your favorite theories and just ideas for what the heck's going on and what we can expect in the next episode. Having said that, little thumbnail action.
Yeah. What did we do last time? Oh, we did like the note taking.
Yeah. Right. Every thumbnail is just like an iteration. It's the same picture, just or like upside down, like at different angles.
Tilted 12 degrees. Yeah. Let's see. I don't know.
One of us could be like sort of like praying like to the bulb or something, and the other one could be like throwing up.
Okay.
Kind of like Aabria and Brennan's characters.
Yeah, I'm down for that.
You don't seem too flipped on it. We don't have to do that.
No, no, that's cool. I like that.
It's totally cool.
I'm down.
All right. Do you want to be the Bulbian or the hungry one?
Your idea, you pick.
I'll be the Bulbian.
Okay.
Yeah. All right. How's this? Yeah.
I don't really know what I'm doing. It's like, why is he trying to be an ape?
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, thank you for tuning in today, and stay tuned for more of our D&D content.
Yeah. Don't forget to join the Discord. Maybe watch party soon. Maybe even for tomorrow's episode. And one other thing. Oh yeah. Please again enlighten us on the lore that we're getting completely wrong and would help us understand. Alrighty.
Yeah. See ya.
Bye.